Have you ever had one of those moments? It's not dramatic, not during a big, life-altering event. It's quiet. You're sitting on a bus, or folding laundry, or just staring out the window on an ordinary afternoon, and suddenly the thought arrives, uninvited. What is all of this for? What is the real point of my life? This question feels too big, too quiet, too personal to speak out loud, and most of us think it's a problem to be solved, a puzzle to be figured out. But what if, in the profound wisdom of the Buddhist tradition, this very question isn't a sign that you are lost, but is, in fact, a rare and precious sign that you are finally, truly beginning to wake up? Today, we are going on a journey, not to find a simple answer to life's biggest question, but to explore something far more important: the incredible significance of why this question has found you at all. Stay with me, because understanding this could change not just your perspective, but the very way you experience your life. The question beneath all questions. Sometimes, the question comes quietly. Other times, it arrives in the silent, empty space that follows a big moment. After a success you worked so hard for that left you feeling surprisingly hollow. Or after the painful end of something you held so dear, and in that stillness, something deeper than your everyday thoughts begins to stir, a kind of whisper beneath all the noise. And this question, it lingers, not because you need a quick, easy answer, but because something deep inside of you has begun to outgrow the old ones. Most people believe the question, "What's the meaning of life?" is something to be solved, like a complex mathematical equation. But maybe that's not what truly matters. Maybe the real mystery is this: why did this question find you at all? In the world of Buddhist wisdom, this is not seen as a crisis or a problem. It is seen as a sign, a rare and incredibly precious one. It means that something in your mind, in your very consciousness, no longer accepts the simple, surface-level answers like, "Just be happy," or "Do your best." You've outgrown them, and that is the very beginning of true seeing. There's an old, powerful story in the Buddhist texts that illustrates just how precious this moment is. It says that being born as a human being, with the capacity to ask such a question, is as rare as this. Imagine a single, blind turtle that lives at the bottom of a vast, deep ocean, and only once every 100 years. That turtle surfaces for a single breath of air. Now, imagine that floating somewhere on the surface of that same vast ocean is a single wooden ring. The chance that the blind turtle's head, in that one moment every century, rises up through the very center of that single, floating ring, that is said to be the chance of being born a human being. Now, this story isn't meant to pressure you. It's not a story meant to induce guilt. It simply, beautifully means this: this life is rare, not because it's always perfect or easy, but because you possess the incredible, sacred ability to ask this kind of profound question. That is the truly rare part. The French philosopher Albert Camus said that the most serious question in life is whether it has any meaning at all. He called this feeling the absurd, that strange, often lonely feeling of desperately seeking meaning in a world that so often offers only a profound, echoing silence. For him, True courage was not in running from that silence, but in bravely facing it, in learning to live with it. Buddhism agrees with this, but with one very important, life-altering difference. It doesn't see that silence as cold or empty. It sees it as space, a wide, open, fertile space for awareness to finally take root. And in that sacred space, something entirely new can begin to grow. So, if you are asking this question, what's the point? I invite you not to rush to find a simple answer. The question itself is already incredibly powerful. It means you started to look beyond the shallow comforts and the surface-level goals of the world. And that, my friend, is the true beginning of wisdom, the endless cycle, chasing happiness, fleeing from sorrow. You might think that the hardest part of life is pain, but what if the deeper, more subtle trap is not the pain itself, but the way we relentlessly, exhaustingly keep trying to run from it? And not just that, we also chase after happiness as if it's some beautiful, exotic butterfly that we can finally catch and pin down in a display case. But every single time we think we've finally caught it, it seems to slip away again. And so, we chase harder, and the exhausting cycle repeats. Most people live their entire lives caught between these two extremes, desperately reaching for what feels good, success, love, recognition, and frantically pushing away what feels bad, fear, shame, loss. But even when you get the very thing you wanted, it never seems to last, does it? The initial joy softens, the excitement fades, and soon enough, a new craving, a new "if only," appears on the horizon. Modern psychology has a name for this: the hedonic treadmill. You run, and you run, and you run, but you ultimately stay in the very same place emotionally. And this isn't just about wealth or fame. A rich person and a poor person can both be equally, desperately trapped in this very same loop. The specific things they chase may differ, but the underlying restlessness, that constant, nagging urge to fix, to escape, to want more, is exactly the same. In Buddhism, this fundamental, underlying dissatisfaction is known as dukkha. It's often translated as suffering, but its meaning is much deeper than just acute pain. It's that quiet, persistent unease that can linger, even on a perfectly fine day. It's like a subtle, inner itch you can't quite seem to reach. The Buddha never said that happiness was bad. He understood it very well, but he saw, with profound clarity, that clinging to happiness, trying to make a fleeting, beautiful moment stay forever, is what creates the very tension that destroys it, and desperately resisting sorrow only gives it more power, more fuel. So, both the frantic chasing and the fearful running are two sides of the very same trap. You may have felt this yourself. You achieve something you've wanted for years, but the joy fades much more quickly than you ever expected. Or you try to distract yourself from a deep sadness with entertainment or busyness, only to feel it return with even greater force. Once the distraction finally ends, it's not your fault. It's just the way the cycle works. And it feels so endless because we keep looking for the solution in the wrong direction. We think if we can just fix the outside, if we can just change the job, find the right partner, make more money, then the inside will finally feel at peace. But the Buddha taught that true, lasting peace doesn't come from external control. It comes from internal understanding. This entire cycle is, at its core, a profound misunderstanding. We mistakenly think that happiness can be permanently owned, and that sorrow can be permanently avoided, but both are just passing waves in the great ocean of life. What truly hurts us is not their presence, but our own desperate grasping and our own fearful resisting. Waking up to this truth isn't always easy, but when you can begin to simply notice this pattern within yourself, without judgment, when you can observe your own mind chasing and observe your own mind fleeing, something inside you begins to soften. And in that beautiful, gentle softening, there is a stillness, a quiet that doesn't depend on getting or avoiding, but simply on being aware. The ripple of our actions. Why death isn't an escape. When people feel truly stuck in life, they might often say something like, "Maybe it will all finally end when I die." They don't always mean it in a literal sense, but there's a quiet, often hidden, wish underneath that sentiment, a wish that when death finally comes, all the confusion, all the pain, and all the pressure will finally, blessedly stop, that we can just press a cosmic reset button, that we'll finally be free. But from the profound perspective of the Buddhist worldview, death is not a clean break. It is not the end of the story. It is simply a turning of the page. The reason we can often feel so trapped in this cycle of chasing and running, of always seeking and always fearing, is because our actions, our words, and even our thoughts never just disappear into thin air. Everything we do, say, and even think creates a subtle, yet powerful, ripple. Imagine a perfectly still lake. When you drop a single stone into it, the water may look calm again after a moment, but the ripples, the energetic consequences of that action, continue to spread outwards long after the initial splash. This is the essence of what Buddhism calls karma, or karma. It's not a system of cosmic punishment or reward. It's not some outside God watching over you and keeping score. It is, quite simply, the natural, universal law of cause and effect. Just as fire naturally burns and water naturally flows, our intentional actions inevitably bring about results. If you consistently speak with kindness, you are actively shaping your own mind to become more open, more compassionate. If you consistently act with hatred, your own heart will inevitably grow harder. These ripples don't always show up right away, but they are constantly, silently shaping your future, not just in this life, but in the experiences that lie beyond it. In a way, this is not so different from the laws of physics. Newton's third law states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. In Buddhism, we don't just apply this principle to the external, physical world. We see it operating with perfect precision inside our own minds. Every single intention, even the smallest, most fleeting ones, carries a specific energy, and that energy keeps moving, keeps seeking resolution, not because someone is sending it somewhere, but because the mind itself is a continuous, flowing process, always moving, always becoming. So, What happens when this physical body finally dies? Many religions and philosophies speak of a soul, something fixed, eternal, and unchanging, me, that is somehow untouched by the changes of life. Some say this soul goes to a heaven or a hell, depending on how it lived. But Buddhism looks at things very differently. It says that there is, in fact, no fixed, unchanging soul. There is no solid, separate me hiding somewhere behind the skin. Instead, there is a constantly flowing stream of consciousness, a river of knowing, of feeling, of reacting, that has been shaped by all of our past habits, by all of our accumulated karma. And when this body ends, that stream doesn't just vanish into nothingness. It continues, not as the same you, but as the direct, energetic results of everything that you have ever done, felt, and believed. The classic analogy is that of lighting one candle from the flame of another. The flame continues, yes, but is it the exact same flame? No. Is it a completely new and separate flame? No. It is a continuation. That is what rebirth, in the Buddhist sense, truly means. Not a solid self coming back again, but an energetic process flowing ever forward, with no solid, unchanging self to be found, but with clear, undeniable effects from all that has come before. This might sound strange, even unsettling at first, but this very understanding that we are not a fixed noun, but a flowing verb, a stream of becoming shaped by our own actions, is the very key that unlocks the door to our liberation. But how do we begin to work with this stream? How do we purify its waters so that it flows not towards more suffering, but towards lasting peace? That, my friends, is the profound journey we will embark upon right after this. So, we have come to understand that our lives are not a series of disconnected events, but the continuous, flowing stream of consciousness, a river of becoming, shaped moment by the ripples of our own actions, or karma. This realization, while profound, can also be a bit unsettling. It reveals that death isn't a simple escape hatch from our problems. The patterns we create in this life will continue to flow forward. But this isn't a story of fear. It is a profound reminder of our own immense power. Because if every single action has a ripple, then every single moment holds the potential for a new beginning. You don't need to believe in many lives to feel the deep, intuitive truth of this. Just look at how your own words can affect someone for days. Look at how a small habit, repeated daily, can completely shape your future. See how one single, kind gesture can open up a brand new path in your life. This is karma in real time, not some mystical, cosmic magic, but the simple, undeniable reality of cause and effect. The Buddha never told people to be afraid of death. He simply, lovingly told him to understand it, and to see that death is only truly scary when we haven't first learned to look deeply, with courage and with honesty, at our own life. When we do, we begin to see that the ultimate point is not to somehow escape the great cycle of life, but to stop feeding it with our own suffering, to stop, with conscious intention, throwing more stones of anger, of greed, of ignorance, into the still lake of our own consciousness. It is about learning to live in a way that no longer creates unnecessary suffering, either for ourselves or for others. And when that begins to happen, even death itself starts to lose its terrifying bite, not because it magically disappears, but because, when your mind is at peace, there is nothing left to fear. The ripples have stilled, and what continues from there is no longer a stream of confusion, but a river of pure, luminous clarity, the middle path, walking through life, not around it. We spend so much of our precious lives trying to fix things, don't we? We're constantly trying to remove discomfort, to desperately hold on to fleeting moments of joy, to make absolutely sure that nothing ever goes wrong. We make endless plans, we set rigid goals, we chase after lofty ideals. But what if true, lasting peace doesn't come from finally fixing life? What if it comes from simply learning to see it clearly, and then walking through it with a newfound sense of balance and grace? After seeing how our own craving and our own fear can create these endless, exhausting cycles, and how even death itself doesn't automatically break the chain, something deep inside of us begins to shift. We stop trying to escape life, and we start asking a much deeper, more meaningful question. How can I live in a way that no longer adds more confusion and more suffering to the world and to my own heart? That is the very moment the Buddha, in his wisdom, pointed toward something radical in its profound simplicity, the middle path. Now, this doesn't mean living a bland, boring, or passionless life. It means learning to walk with an incredible, unshakable steadiness, not being constantly pulled by the magnetic force of your desires, and not being frantically pushed by the chilling winds of your fears, not falling into the trap of overindulgence, and not collapsing into the equally painful trap of self-denial. It is the beautiful, sacred path that lies right between the extremes, the very place where true wisdom finally has the space to grow. Many people imagine the spiritual path as something exotic, something far removed from the realities of ordinary, everyday life, but the Buddha's middle path was never, ever about escaping the world. It was about learning to live in the world with a profound, liberating clarity, whether you are a parent, a student, a farmer, or a busy professional. This path speaks directly to you. It gently, yet powerfully, invites you to live with a greater sense of care, not with the goal of being perfect, but with the simple intention of being more awake to how your actions, your words, and even your faults affect both yourself and others. At its very heart, the middle path is a deeply ethical and mindful way of living. It asks us to look, with radical honesty, at what we are feeding with our precious attention, with our powerful speech, and with our daily choices. Are we, in our interactions, adding more fear, more greed, more division to the world? Or are we consciously choosing to plant the seeds of kindness, of honesty, of responsibility, even and especially when it's hard? This kind of profound inner balance isn't cold or mechanical. It is deeply, beautifully human. It means allowing yourself to feel immense joy without desperately clinging to it. It means facing your pain with courage, without completely collapsing under its weight. It means choosing a path that may look very quiet and unassuming from the outside. But on the inside, it is filled with an indomitable, unshakable strength. The Buddha beautifully compared it to tuning a stringed instrument. If the string is too tight, it will snap. If it's too loose, it won't play any music. But with just the right amount of tension, just enough mindfulness, just enough gentle effort, something truly beautiful begins to resonate. The point is presence, living the answer in this moment. After all the seeking, all the running, all the questioning, we inevitably return to the very question we began with: what's the point? And maybe now, after this journey, something within you has shifted. We no longer ask it like an angry, impatient demand. We don't expect the universe to simply hand us a neat and tidy answer, wrapped in the illusion of certainty. Instead, we begin to sense, deep in our bones, that the point isn't some distant, final destination. The point is in how we travel. In the ancient language of the Buddhist texts, the word sati, which is often translated as mindfulness, carries the much deeper, more beautiful meaning: remembrance. Not just the simple remembering to breathe or to focus, but the profound, sacred remembering of what truly matters. Remembering that this moment, right here, right now, is your life, not tomorrow, not after you've achieved success, not after you've finally healed. Right now, to live with presence doesn't mean you have to slow down and take deep breaths all day long. Though that can certainly help, it means learning to be intimate with your own existence. It means daring to feel your life fully, the joy and the ache, the clarity and the fog, without the constant, compulsive need for it to be anything other than what it is. In Taoist thought, there is a beautiful concept called Wu Wei, which is often misunderstood as doing nothing, but it actually points to a way of being that is so deeply, so exquisitely attuned to reality, that your actions begin to arise naturally, effortlessly, without any inner resistance. Like a great tree growing towards the sun, or a powerful river flowing to the sea, nothing is forced. Nothing is held back, just a full, joyful participation in what is. Presence, then, is not an escape from life. It is the deepest, most profound form of engagement with it. It gently asks you, can you be here, right now, without needing to control what comes next? Can you feel your own pain without closing your heart? Can you feel immense joy without desperately grasping onto it like a possession? Because real, authentic presence is not a performance. It's not spiritual behavior. It's in the way a person listens with their whole being. It's in the way someone can hold another's grief without that anxious need to immediately fix it. It's in the way you can wash a single dish as if the entire universe were right there in the warm, soapy water. This isn't some mystical, unattainable state that is reserved only for monks or saints. It is as close to you as your very next breath. It's in the simple, beautiful moment you notice the way the sunlight is falling on the floor and you realize, with a sudden, quiet awe, you're alive. And that is no small thing. When we learn to live like this, meaning is no longer something we desperately chase after. It's something that quietly, naturally blooms from within, in the way we speak, in the way we care, in the way we choose to pause before we react. The Buddha didn't promise us all the answers. He offered us a path, and what that beautiful path reveals, step by steady step, breath by loving breath, is that the ultimate point is not to conquer life, or to fix it, or to figure it all out. The point is to simply stop being at war with it, to stop being absent from it. And when you learn to live like that, gently, fully, honestly, meaning begins to emerge, not as a grand idea, but as a living, breathing presence, a way of being that touches and beautifies everything you do. This short, precious life doesn't need to be perfect to be profound. It only needs to be real, and your presence, your true, deep presence, is what makes it real. So, we return to the quiet, personal question that started our entire journey. What is the point? And we find that the answer was never a destination to be reached, but a presence to be embodied. The purpose of this rare, precious human life is not to escape the great, turning wheel of existence, but to learn how to walk upon it with wisdom, with balance, and with a deep, abiding peace. It's about understanding that our actions create ripples, that our minds crave stillness, and that our hearts find their truest home not in chasing or fleeing, but in the simple, profound act of being present. The answer was never out there. It was always, always right here, waiting patiently beneath the noise of our own restless minds. If this journey into the heart of Buddhist wisdom has resonated with you, if you feel a stirring in your soul, a deep desire to walk this path of presence and clarity, then we passionately, sincerely invite you. Do not let this moment of inspiration fade. Subscribe now and become an essential, cherished member of our incredible community. A vibrant sanctuary where we courageously explore these transformative truths and support one another on the magnificent journey of awakening. By subscribing, you are not just getting more content, you are making a powerful, conscious declaration to yourself and to the universe. I am choosing presence. I am choosing to wake up. Click that subscribe button with the full, heartfelt intention of your aspiring soul, and be absolutely certain to ring that powerful notification bell, because you won't want to miss the single one of our upcoming explorations into the simple yet profound practices that can set you free. And now, we would be so deeply honored to hear from you. Your journey, your voice, and your insights are what make this beautiful community so incredibly special. Please, anchor your own practice of presence by leaving a comment below. Simply, yet powerfully, write, "My journey is now." Let's create a magnificent wave of mindful, conscious energy together. Your declaration inspires us all. Until we meet again, may you walk the middle path with grace. May you find the profound beauty that always resides in the present moment. And may you remember always that this precious life doesn't need to be figured out. It only needs to be lived. Thank you, with our deepest gratitude, for being here and for watching.